Tegbandimino, Jijakato of governance approach. The Laptababnina, Bokika, Pantala de Snowage, well, a governance,
It's about time for us in this generation, we step up to the plate and try to get this initiative going. It's about time it's here, and I feel that there's a lot of work need to be done.
Have an evaluation of what is working and what's not working right now, and take what is working in our community and keep it and embrace it, and what we feel is not working, make changes and move forward.
So, for me, as a Native person, it's a wonderful time to be alive because I'm seeing these changes occurring all the time. For instance, like for Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians in Mississippi, the unemployment rate there in Mississippi Choctaw is 0. So every Choctaw that wants a job has a job. Today, they're probably one of the most successful Aboriginal nations in North America. They have an unemployment rate of 0. Then their language retention rate is going towards 90%. So just about every Choctaw speaks Choctaw. And they're the ones that are calling the shots. They're the ones that are saying, this is the way we want to live. And they live on a small piece of property. They have 5 different land areas. Probably not much bigger than Eskasoni. And they live in the worst state that you can live in, Mississippi. Mississippi consistently is the poorest state in the United States. So when you look at educational attainment rates of all the 50 states, the last one often is Mississippi. You look at all the poverty rates, the last one is Mississippi. But in the middle of Mississippi, you have an Indian nation that is thriving better than the state itself. It's an unbelievable place. 4 parts to the standard approach. It's short-term, non-strategic. It doesn't allow you to plan for 25, 50 years down the road. You can only plan as long as the grant that you get allows you to. 3 years, 5 years. Views economic development as an economic problem. The thought has always been, we just need more money. If we have more money, everything's going to be okay. And the more money you get, that doesn't seem like things are getting any better, So a lot of people think under the standard approach that you just need to get more money and everything's going to be fine. Number 3, lets others set the development agenda. Somebody else is calling the shots. Ottawa is calling the shots. Washington, D.C. is calling the shots. The provincial governments are calling the shots, not Aboriginal peoples themselves. Lastly, it views Indigenous culture as an obstacle to development. Well, the reason why you're not developing is because you're too Indian. You're too tribal. So under the standard approach, people think like that to this very day. So here's the building indigenous nation economies the standard way. Usually this is the way it goes. A new Aboriginal administration is elected, promising to build indigenous nation economy. The new leadership looks around and says, we sure need to build an economy here. What shall we do? So somebody says, well, let's come up with some ideas. Any kind of ideas. We can have a store here. We can do this here. We can do that here. You find some ideas. Then you get a really good EDO planner. So we'll get the EDO to write a grant. And we'll get some money, and then we'll try that idea here and there. Then you get a grant. The planner gets a grant. And then you start a business, any kind of business, because the council and the chief only have 2-year terms. So they told their constituents that if you vote for me, I'll do something in 2 years. So we're just going to do anything. And I'll show them that we did something in my term. But lo and behold, 2-year terms are very short terms. Because the first 6 months of your term, You're trying to figure out what happened with the last administration. The next 6 months, you're planning. The next 6 months, you're implementing the plan. The last 6 months, you're running for re-election. So you only have 6 months to get stuff done. Very short term. So you just start any business, anything, because you promise the people jobs and income, you know. And then you hand out your jobs to your relatives and your friends that voted for you. And then if it's not doing so well, you find another grant and you keep it going. Because if one grant project runs out of money, you get money off another grant and you put it over here, you know. If that runs out of money, you get another grant and you put the money over here. You're trying to juggle everything, you know. This is the standard approach. And then you spend the proceeds. You spend it all because it's not your money, it's INAC money. And then you're content with operational administration. You know, you're administering money because you get money from INAC. It comes to you. INAC tells you how to spend the money, and then you just spend the money. You write the reports that they tell you to write, and you send it back to them. So you're not really governing. You're just administering money, programs. That's the standard approach. Then if it starts to fall apart, you blame the manager. It's the manager's fault, the band manager. He's the one. He's no good. You blame the federal. Oh, it's the federal government's fault. It's the chief's fault. It's the council's fault. And your relatives are asking you, where did the jobs go? I voted for you, you know. And then at the next election, the new council is elected and promising to build an economy because they ran on this ticket. They said, jobs for you. We're not going to make the same mistakes as those guys before. So those guys look around and they say, boy, those guys before us really screwed up, you know. Good thing we got elected. So what should we do now? And here we go again. You get some ideas. You hire a planner. Get a grant. Start a business. Be content. It starts all over again. That's the standard approach. But if it was a Mi'kmaq system, you'll sit down and talk about it. Say, I want my kids to live like this. I want to plan 100 years down the road. Because 100 years is just like that. Short period of time. It's not long. Those of you that have more white hair than me, you know what I'm talking about. I wish I was 18 again, you know, so I can do this all over. But you don't get time, just keeps on ticking. You can't stop it.
As for the youth, they're our future. And if we go messing around with their future, their rights, you know, I think it's important that they are involved too, because this is going to affect them. You know, I might not be around tomorrow, but they're still going to be here.
We have to empower our youth, first of all, and because our youth are, like everybody always says, our generation. They're our future leaders. They're the ones, they're the ones who will be carrying if this process goes through, and it's going to take a while. But by the time it starts, it'll be them that they'll be strong, and they'll be making decisions for us in the future, and we'll have leaders who will be dedicated and be accountable.
So you've got to make those decisions now.